Hello, honorable members of the clan. So, welcome to my YouTube channel. So, guys, I know I promised you that we were going to talk about something that came out in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, where the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial came up, especially when it came to Shadrack Sibiya. Shadrack Sibiya, who has been adamant in getting the cold case unit under his control. Now, guys, those of y'all who are following the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, there has been some revelations about the crime scene on the 26th of October 2014. The first person allegedly that arrived at the crime scene was allegedly Shadrack Sibiya. And the question was, why was a suspended, I think at the time it was from the Hawks or something like that, was at the Senzo Meyiwa crime scene? And what did he order? What did he say that has now took 11 years to get to a conclusion and people held accountable by being convicted of his unaliving? So now it was quite interesting to hear that he's been adamant on getting the cold case unit under his wings as a deputy national police commissioner. And then Fanny Masemola was like, wait, no, that has nothing to do with you, sir. Yes, your responsibility might be in the investigative side of the police at national level, but the cold case unit, no, it reports to me, the National Police Commissioner, not the Deputy National Commissioner. And the question one has to ask themselves is, what is in there that you don't want the court to come to a conclusion about? But anyways, we already on this channel, we've already declared the trial as an unfair trial on so many levels, on so many factors that have been tabled. And then when you analyze those factors, they don't gel up, especially when it comes to the people that are accused of unaliving Senzo Meyiwa. And then you look at the people that were with Senzo Meyiwa, and the description of the unaliving weapon, eyewitnesses said, oh, it had a wheel. I mean, what gun that has a wheel, by the way? It's allegedly it's a revolver. I know nothing about guns, but it's a revolver. And at some point, it was even given a model. I think it was a Special 38 or 38 Special, one of the two. And then out of the blue, we have a 9mm. But before we get to the 9mm, the first respondents, who, by the way, supposed to scour the crime scene, looking and putting cones on places where they think this is evidence, like bullet shells, sharpnels, whatever the language that they use there, including blood spatters, and also where the body was at. So they will put these cones so that they can recreate the crime scene if it has to come to that level. But the first responders, as we know, they abandoned the crime scene because they wanted to see Senzo Meyiwa. And they went to the hospital, and they left the crime scene to a civilian. And while the first respondents had gone to the hospital to see Senzo Meyiwa, guess what happened in the crime scene? Allegedly, Emma Piri went there and then rearranged the crime scene by cleaning off the evidence, allegedly. And allegedly, who was looking after the scene? It was a Temba Kumalo. Questions were, who is Temba Kumalo? Allegedly, that's the uncle of Kelly Kumalo, who's also a police officer, allegedly, or former police officer, allegedly. So already you can tell that this is a mistrial in any country with a rule of law, and with a judiciary that is independent, because it should have ended right there the moment the judge hears that the crime scene was contaminated. But before the contamination of the crime scene, there were people, allegedly, there was the MEC for health, allegedly that was there. What was an MEC for Health in Gauteng doing at the crime scene in Vosloorus after the unaliving of Senzo Meyiwa? And then you had Shadrack Sibiya allegedly on the crime scene, and now the same Shadrack Sibiya, who is the suspended National Deputy Police Commissioner, wanting the cold case unit. As we all know on this channel, that the cold case unit is the one that is investigating the unaliving of Senzo Meyiwa, with a questionable investigator. And now you have to ask yourself a question. What is the relationship between Shadrack Sibiya and Brigadier Deninda, who has been, in our opinion, very suspicious? Like, what are you putting on the table that it doesn't make sense? Instead, he comes and gives an LLB lecture on a yes or no question. Takes forever to respond. And the judge doesn't say, for sake of progress, can you answer the question by saying yes or no? But no, he would listen to the brigadier the whole day. The whole day. But still, we haven't gotten to the crux of why he's on the stand for 7 months. It's been interesting. But to me, when I heard General Fanny Masemula, I was like, I'm sure anybody that follows the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial on this channel or any other channel, not surprised. Because the dots just began connecting. And now I kept going boom, 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 boom. But we knew this. It's just that we could not put our fingers on it, but we knew it. Because we are critical thinkers on this channel, all of us. Those that follow the Senzo Meyiwa. And that is why I always say, thank you, God, for blessing me with the type of people that follow this channel. Thank you, guys. You are indeed honorable members of the clan. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Because somewhere, somehow, I feel like we all were relieved to hear that we were not imagining things. We have not been imagining things. But now here is the thing. Having heard and understood Fanny Masemula, how the cold case unit, I would like to know, what pressure did the investigators go under because of Shadrack Sibiya? And what evidence that has been fabricated, what evidence that is real? Because, hey, even the entire judge, he argues science. And I always grew up told you can never refute science. But this judge refutes the DNA tests. He wants to... The DNA expert was very clear. That cleared all the 5 people that stand accused of unaliving Senzo Meyiwa, that they were not there. But the judge was saying, wait, just because this field and that field, doesn't, and he argued with science. Something we all learned you can't do. You can't argue with numbers unless they are fabricated. You can't argue with science unless it's also fabricated. But overall, you just cannot do that. Numbers don't lie. Science doesn't lie either. But here we were. But that's not only thing. So now the question I've been asking, how much of this trial is a complete fabrication? Now that we understand that Shadrack Sibiya has been trying his level best to get the cold case unit under his wings. Why? Why? I think that's the biggest question anybody and everybody that follows the Senzo Meyiwa trial is asking. And I don't think it is a difficult answer. It's easy. We need to shift the focus and attention from the real shooter. And the question now is, who's the real shooter? Amongst the people that were with Senzo Meyiwa on the 26th of October 2014. I'm sure you guys have heard me say this over and over. And now it sounds, it hits differently now when I say it. It hits differently. Somebody prominent that was in that house who had the gun pulled the trigger. And I am still saying it was by accident. I'm still saying that. But why must this person be protected? I think that revelation by Fanny Masemula, it kind of confirms a lot of suspicions that we may have had, those that are following this trial. And kudos to us, because we refused to be made fools of. We refused to say, okay, we'll accept this mediocrity. No, we don't. We listened and we judged. And we said, no, those people there, wrong. Wrong. So that is why Mr. Kumalo, is it Kumalo? Makubo, is important to have him understand. And I hope he is not one of the witnesses that are difficult to get available on the stand. Maybe he's afraid. Remember, they tried to smear him with crimes he did not commit because he was going against the grain. And now we have found out in this particular commission of inquiry that if you're a police officer that does not toe the line, guess what happens to you? Yeah, they smear you with crimes you did not commit. And so far, what we've heard is they will plant drugs and ammunition and charge you with it, like they did with Muzi Sibiya. And I'm not quite sure what Makubo was charged with. I think one of them is defeating the ends of justice or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But all those cases were dropped by the magistrate that he stood before. So we know now this is the modus operandi of the police. Who ordered that? Who ordered that? And I'm thinking now about Dlamini. Is it Dlamini? The one that was unalive through poisoning. And his wife was pew-pewed at a parking lot in a mall in front of her daughter. And I'm thinking about Mabena, who had an accident. I'm thinking about the two boys that were seated at the substation outside the Kumalo house, who saw everything. Both of them, they're no longer here. Wow, guys, the dots are connecting. The dots are connecting. I'm not quite sure if you see how they are actually connecting. Our country, wow. And yeah, some of us YouTubers, I mean, we shared our own experiences as we talked about this matter and trying to ask questions. Yeah, things happened. Things are still happening in the background. It's just that we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it because we don't want to scare you as well. So who knows? Maybe somebody in the Commission of Inquiry might even mention our names, like, oh, during our investigations, this is what we also discovered. Who knows? And I mean, like, us being, you know, not as, yeah, because South Africa has become a mafia state. You question things, you are disturbing, you're distracting. We're trying to make South Africans fools, and then you guys come and you are saying, don't take that. No, sorry guys. Some of us are prepared actually to die for the truth. We are. I mean, I always learned that there is nothing more dangerous than a man who has nothing to lose. Not that we don't have anything to lose, but for the truth, bring it on. That's why we will ask and we will continue to ask and we will not be afraid. Nawe uzofa. Nawe uzofa. You don't own this world. And I've said it many a times to them. Do whatever you have to do. Wazi ukuthi nawe uyangilandela. You're not invincible. You're a human being just like me. It's just that you decided to take God's position and take me out early. But you might live a full life. Don't ever think for once you are ever going to get any kind of rest. Because you won't. And it goes for Inkabi, this message as well. Nawe uzofa. Period. Uzo. Imali le abakubhadala yona uzoyibosha. That's it. You will sit at Spurs and go and be with slay queens. At the end of the day, uzoyibosha. And then after that, uzongilandela. That's just how life is, unfortunately. You're not invincible. You are not invincible. So I just wanted to say, hey, honorable members of the clan, we have been onto something. And it was good to hear the National Police Commissioner say that his deputy, when it came to the cold case unit, the one that is investigating the Senzo Meyiwa murder, my ears were like, whoa, say, what do you say? What do you? And then he just dropped the bombshell. We're like, knew it. We knew it. So I'm going to leave my thoughts right here. But the question is, what was it that Shadrack Sibiya wanted to achieve with the cold case unit under his control? What did he want to achieve? What was there that the public should never find out? And of course, the only answer I have, somebody prominent that was there pulled the trigger, and everybody else either got paid or intimidated. And I wait for the day when one of them develops a conscience and comes out and say, hey, this is the real story. This is the real deal. And one day I do believe that will happen. Will the Meyiwa get the justice they deserve? Clearly, no. And I've been saying this. And I always say I feel bad for saying it because Senzo Meyiwa's mom is in pain. And the last thing she wants to hear is a YouTuber that says she's not going to get justice. Because when you are sitting where I'm seated and you are looking into this trial, you realize this is a charade. This is a facade. This is to shut us up. Okay, a trial happened and then this. But the real perpetrator gets to walk free and live their lives. While innocent lives of Muzi Sibiya and Ntanzi, I say the other three, they are convicted for crimes they deserve to be serving. But Ntanzi and Muzi, young people, ruined probably for life. That's how you saw Uti. There's no justice here. And now Fanny Mesimula comes and saying, well, you were right. Unsubstantiated though. So that means, and I've asked this question before, and I'm going to ask it again. Whatever happened to the investigative journalism South Africa once had? Remember Third Degree, Deborah Patter? I think if that time still existed, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial would have long been resolved. All the stuff that is happening in the police and what we are now facing would have never happened. Because investigative journalism in the early 2000s coming, I don't know when it died, all these things wouldn't have happened. Now that they are in the know of everything that is happening, what are they doing? Why are they digging? When they're going to start digging? So that people are held criminally liable. Because the Commission of Inquiry says, well, we don't have teeth. We just make recommendations. Imagine. Imagine the very person who allegedly wanted PKTT dead is the one they're going to receive the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry recommendations, and his name is in there. And I said this before. It's going to be put under a couch like the dollars and sat on. Yeah, that's the country we are living in. I hear people say, Banana Republic. If you only knew what Banana Republic, where that history comes from, Guatemala, check it out. And then make comparisons with when we say South Africa is a bad, you will realize, no, we've been wrong. We've been mislabeling South Africa. South Africa is a mafia state, period. Banana Republic, it's a whole different ball game. That's got nothing to do with how things are currently in South Africa. We are run by crooks. Crooks, in my opinion. Let me leave it right here. Just came to say, guys, looks like we are on the money when it comes to the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Yeah. And that, please don't leave the video without liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know, are you patting yourself on the shoulder, honorable member? Because you should. Remember, we were called self-appointed experts at one, and we embraced that. We're like, oh, badge of honor, and we wore it with pride. And looks like we are some experts when it comes to street wisdom. Anyways, goodbye.